on there. So, so why do we create a holistic context? Our holistic context is really that overall driving force. It's what we live for. It's how we want our life to be and how we want our business to be and how we want our land to be. It defines what's really truly important to all of us. And it helps us to manage, the complexity of the, those systems that we talked about, the humans, social aspects, the relationships. It helps us to manage the environment, the land that we have in our, under our management. It helps us to also take control of the finances that we have in our home or in our family or in our business. It helps us to evaluate decisions and to the goals and the objectives and all of those things that are going to be relative to your holistic context. So in that holistic context is going to be our foundation. It's our foundation for how, how we're going to make all of those future decisions. And the very important thing is that it be written down. Because, and an example of that very quickly is I was talking to a couple who'd had a little bit of exposure to holistic management. I asked them, do you have your holistic context written down? And, oh no, excuse me, I asked them if they had a holistic context. And it was a husband and wife, and the husband said, oh yeah, we've got a holistic context. And so I said, do you have it written down? He goes, oh no, it's in my head. And so I asked him, I said, well, what are some of the things that are in your holistic context? So he started talking about what was in the holistic context, and I noticed that his wife was sitting there, and her face started to get a little red, and she started kind of, squirming a little bit, and finally she just blurted out, that's not what I want. And I realized right there that although he had an idea of what his holistic context was, they had never really sat down together and defined what that holistic context was. And it was obviously, it was kind of a source of conflict in that there was definitely a divergence in some of the directions that they were heading. So I really encourage you to write it down. It does create clarity. Okay, so there's 3 parts to the holistic context, and those parts are the quality of life statements, and I'll talk about that in a moment. The form of production, that is what you must produce to create that quality of life. And finally, the future resource-based description, in other words, how you want your land to be like, and also how you want to be perceived as a business person. So in terms of quality of life, there are many different areas that we consider. One area being our economic well-being. Maybe that we may state in there that we are debt-free, that we want to be financially secure. We'll probably talk about relationships, describing the quality of the relationships that we want, and the communication, all of those things. We may talk about things such as challenge and growth. What makes life fun and exciting? What's really important to us. We'll also talk about purpose and contribution. What gives you that good feeling at the end of the day? I mean, what do you really want most in your life? What values are most important to you? And so the quality of life is kind of like a compass to us. We're considering instead of a physical direction of north, south, east, or west, is we're looking at the physical aspects of kind of how we want our life to be, the emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual as well. And so for Craig and Sulani, they talked about, we enjoy many meaningful relationships with friends and family. We enjoy good health. We are financially secure and provide for our family's needs. And we want a healthy environment and society. And that's again, simplistic, but that's kind of the core of some of the things in their quality of life. That's what's really important to them. Everyone's holistic context will be different because it will be based on what's important to you. Forms of production. This is kind of the second step in creating a holistic context, and that's identifying what you must produce to create that quality of life and to sustain that quality of life that is so important to you. It identifies what we must produce or create. So it's kind of like the verb. In the quality of life statement we said, we speak in the present tense, even though it may be a long ways off. We speak of it as if it's happening now. Like or we enjoy, adequate leisure time. We live in a healthy, vibrant community. Things like that. Well, in the forms of production, we have to identify what we must produce. So if we have in our quality of life that we want to be financially secure, then we have to be able to say that we produce income from our salaries, profit from our business, and so on. So it really is kind of the verb of what must be produced, not how exactly you're going to do it, but what must be produced. And again, as I just said, enjoy good health and financially secure. So that means in the forms of production, we want to exercise on a regular basis and produce a level of income providing us with adequate financial security and leisure time for a balanced life. And also it talks about what beliefs and behaviors are needed to create your quality of life. And some of those might be like honest, open communication, collaborative work environment, and so on. And so each quality of life statement must have some form of production that addresses it. And it may be that one form of production may address several statements in the quality of life, or vice versa. But you do need to think about, for every statement you make about how you want your life to be, you have to think about what you must produce to get there. Okay, so in an example here, quality of life statement. We have a loving and caring relationship with our family, with each other and our families. Form of production on the other side. We will spend time to maintain and improve our relationships with each other and our families. The example we used before, we enjoy good health as quality of life. Form of production, we will exercise on a regular basis. And finally, we are financially secure. Quality of life statement. In the form of production, we manage our businesses to produce a level of income providing us with the adequate financial security and leisure time for a balanced life. So that's kind of the difference between those two areas. And the future resource base is the third part, and that's kind of the foundation for those two areas that we talked about above. And so those elements are, how must we be perceived by the people in our resource base? In other words, to be, particularly if we're in business, how must we be perceived by our customers and suppliers and clients and so on if we want to stay in business far into the future? It also includes, how must our land be far into the future? How, obviously we want it to be healthy if we want it to be able to continue to grow things and to sustain the people that live there and help sustain and produce food for the community. And also, what community services must be available far into the future if we want to be part of a viable, healthy community. And so an example that Craig used and Sulani is, we are seen as honest, hardworking individuals who provide quality services to our customers. And I think he meant to say, we will live in a community that provides a good balance of services, schools, medical, church, and social activities. And also, the third one, the water cycle is functioning properly. There is a good soil cover, and most water soaks in where it falls. So that was kind of a description of the future resource base. Okay, and then the last part of that is actually drawing a picture, a map of how you'd like your farm to be. And, it doesn't have to be a work of art. It just, stick figures, whatever it might be. But if you can just draw a picture of how you want, your life to be, the wildlife, the gardens, the forest, or whatever it might be, that's really a powerful addition to the holistic context. So I think we have a poll right now, if I recall.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Okay.
Okay, so polls are something that we do real time, sometime during the webinar, and it's like a little survey. So I launch the poll if this is your first time taking one, and you can see it on your screen. The question is your holistic context a goal, objective, driving force or a new model of a car. And you can just go ahead and click on the button that's most, appropriate to your answer. And on my side, I can see how many people have voted with their answer, and then when everyone's had an opportunity to vote, I can show the results. So almost 70% of our participants have voted. 83%. Let's give it another second. So here's the results of our poll. So 100% of folks said that the holistic context is a driving force.
Good, thank you. That is the correct answer. It is a driving force. It's what we live for. It's what I guess really is the foundation for all the decisions that we're going to make in the way that we're going to live our life. Okay, so let me click back on here. Okay, so just to review, important guidelines in writing your holistic context. Write it down. That is so critical. And also when you're writing it down, I may add, and I speak from experience in doing this, is when you gather up the feedback from everybody, use the people's exact words. Do not paraphrase in your own words when you go back to put it all together in a paragraph, because it's not really theirs anymore. And I did that to my family, and I remember when I read this, lovely document that I had paraphrased and read to them at the family meeting, and my youngest daughter looked at me while everyone else was staring blankly and said, "That's not what I said." So when we redid that at a later date and I used their exact words, it was powerful. I mean, seriously, they got up, they jumped up, and one started cleaning her room because, having a neat house was part of the holistic context. Somebody else went out and did something else. But it was very powerful. If people can hear their own words, to use their own words as much as possible. So no how-tos. We're not, the how-tos, the exact way you're going to go about doing something is going to be something that's going to be tested. And I'm going to talk about testing here next. So we just want to get down to the core values. We want to get down to what must we produce, how do we want that land to look, but not exactly how to do it. And again, we start with quality of life, then forms of production, and we finish with the future resource base. And the reason we determine in our whole who are the decision makers is because it's really important, as much as you can as possibly, is to include all the key decision makers in the development of a holistic context. Because if you develop a holistic context for your business or for your family, it's not theirs. They aren't going to have ownership in it. They aren't going to live for it and believe in it. They have to have input in it for them to have ownership in it and for it to have meaning for them. So make sure as much as you can that all of the decision makers are involved in creating that. Sometimes you will find that not everybody wants to be involved, and all you can do is encourage, but you just do it with the people who are willing to do it, and then hopefully later on, once it's written, that they will put some impact or put some feedback onto that and be able to have some input into that holistic concept.